Well, first, it's the summer, it's hot, and there's a lot of serious stuff going on. But there are a whole lot of stories about women, the year of, the power of, fights between. Women are making headlines, and I hate to say it, but that usually means it's the media silly season. Politico is saying that Sarah Palin's a money magnet. The Atlantic is declaring the end of men. And the Daily Show has got itself into a fight over sexism with Jezebel. Meanwhile, of course, there are sleuth attacks on reproductive choice in just about every state to almost no media attention. We'll talk about it with Amanda Marcotte. She's the author of It's a Jungle Out There, a feminist survival guide, and Get Opinionated, a progressive's guide to finding your voice and taking a little action.
It's grossly unconstitutional. Most of my constituents, the vast majority, are real alarmed by it. I've co-sponsored legislation to end and remove these cameras.
Cameras?
Yeah, the highway speed camera, photo radar, it's called here in Arizona.
Yes, SEAL is outraged at the invasiveness of 38 remote speed cameras covering 6,000 miles of highway.
The photo radar, unconstitutional, definitely an invasion of privacy. As to 1070 and the enforcement law, the police officers must have probable cause.
Such as?
If a vehicle's going down the road at an excessive rate of speed, that's probable cause.
What the f? Wait, so speeding is probable cause to check immigration status, but speeding is not probable cause to give you a ticket for speeding.
That's the first new woman correspondent on The Daily Show, Olivia Munn, and her hiring has provoked this enormous controversy, a controversy that brought Jezebel, a website catering to women, part of the Gawker family, onto the front page of the business section of the New York Times. Amanda, you live in the blogging world. Explain to me what this fuss was about and why it made the news.
Well, Olivia Munn was the first female correspondent that The Daily Show had hired in something like 7 years. And considering how many correspondents they go through, this was sort of an alarming thing. And Jezebel decided, I don't think that they were intending to target The Daily Show specifically as the one icon of sexism out there. They were just saying that they're a very good example. They have very few women in their writing staff. They have very few women on camera. And it's a little alarming that the first woman that they have in 7 years on camera came from a show called Attack of the Show on G4, where she was basically playing the bimbo that everybody made fun of on the show.
She's pretty good in this segment we just saw, I have to say.
And I have to say that I think that in a way, it's probably good that all this happened because The Daily Show got really defensive about being attacked as sexist. And subsequently, they probably decided that Olivia Munn is not going to be the bimbo that everybody attacks on their show. If they were
progress.
Yes.
Progress for the feminist revolution. Jezebel got a lot of heat, though, but it did get a lot of coverage.
Yeah, it did. And I think they were a little bit alarmed, I think. I spoke with some of the bloggers about it, and they were like, we didn't actually intend for anyone to think that we hate The Daily Show. We just thought it was typical that, especially in comedy, that it's mostly men, that women's voices are not respected. And when women are in comedy, they're often at men's tolerance.
This gives me my chance to make my plug for the Joan Rivers documentary, which is really worth seeing if anybody has any questions about that. All right, let's move from, well, I don't know, are we moving from comedy? Let's talk about Sarah Palin for a minute. I actually don't believe we should laugh at her, but nonetheless, nor should we, it seems, amp up her power within the Republican Party, which is what Politico and others have been doing this week as they report on her fundraising prowess. It turns out that she now has over $1 million in a political action campaign, and she raised about $800,000 this last quarter. Is she the big power broker and money magnet that some of the headlines are blaring about?
Well, $1 million I think sounds like a lot to some of us, but in a PAC world, it's really not. I mean, I can think of little two-bit organizations that have budgets bigger than $1 million. I don't think that, it's kind of alarming to me that she's made so little, considering that she was a vice presidential candidate. I mean, a vice presidential candidate she could be compared to would be someone like Al Gore, who has actually managed to do something with his loss.
Well, she's done a lot with the money. She's apparently spent $700,000 of it, so you wonder how much she has left. But it remains true that Palin is getting headlines, and I'd love you to talk about the substance of some of the discussion. Basically, where is the substance? Here's Palin, for example, speaking at a Susan B. Anthony anti-choice, so-called pro-life meeting in May. Take a look.
And being a pro-life politician is more than just a convenient title come election time. It means making tough decisions, even if that means bucking your party once in a while on these issues of life, even if it means standing up against that machine that's running a party. The Susan B. Anthony list was front and center during the Obamacare debate, and we were also grateful for your leadership in fighting that public funding that was in the bill during the Obamacare debate. We were saddened to see so many so-called pro-life Democrats cave on the issue, though, but we're not discouraged.
What is she talking about? Bucking the Republican machine on choice? This is absurd on its face. This is a party that has a long pledge to eradicate reproductive choice in most capacities, and in states pretty brutal criminalization programs on many Republican platforms, including Sarah Palin's own, of course. And yet Palin is attracting women. We read about it all the time. They're attracted, apparently, to this kind of buck the system rhetoric, even if it makes no factual sense.
Yeah, the whole Mama Grizzlies thing, for instance, became such a huge talking point and soundbite, and it didn't mean anything. I mean, Mama Grizzlies doing what? Protecting who? Protecting nothing. It's just...
That's what Palin calls her female followers, that they're like the Mama Grizzlies. They'll, I guess, use their Second Amendment kind of rights to defend themselves and, shoot bears? I don't know.
Or bee bears. I think it's interesting. I think that it's a phenomenon that's taking off because a lot of the time the Republican Party works really well, and conservatism and like having this sort of masculine, fierce image, even if it's meaningless, as a lot of Palin's rhetoric is. And yet I think women legitimately say, hey, I want a piece of that. At least conservative women do, but they're often cast in the role of being like mothers and nurturers. And so I think that I can see why they're energized by her, because it's like giving them an opportunity to be the men that are fierce and bucking the system and rebels and Tea Partiers. But against what? Yeah. Who knows?
Well, let's talk about two other things very quickly. One, they're connected. The Atlantic Monthly magazine has a big cover story about the end of men. At the very same time, as we're hearing and you're hearing on your blog about attacks to reproductive justice at the state level across the country, can women be on top and we're still having these battles?
I think a lot of the time people assume that reproductive rights is sort of a done issue and that it's irrelevant, that it has no bearing on women's ability to have a good economic life, have opportunities and whatnot, when that's actually one of the most fundamental things. As for the end of men, I read that article. I respect the woman who wrote it, but I do think that there is a tendency to sort of overreact to this whole notion that men are the ones losing their jobs, men are the ones that are falling behind economically. I don't think feminists wanted equality and pay equity by dragging men down. We don't want men to lose their jobs. That doesn't help women in any way, especially since men and women often share finances.
So finally, Amanda, you've got a new book coming out, Get Opinionated, Find Your Voice and Take a Little Action. What will we find in that new book? Instructions, how to?
Well, a lot of jokes mostly, but it's a bit of inspiration for people that feel that they're liberals and progressives, but just want to know what to do and have some energy to do it.
All right, so smile while you take them down.
Yes, exactly.
All right, there's more information at Pentagon, but also at GRITtv.org.